G'day viewers, welcome back. This time I'm going to show you something I've been wanting to do for years and have been doing for about 6 months. Stick around. If this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. I hope I can teach you something, you like what you see, and consider subscribing. And for many years, I've had a 40 metre extension lead. It's actually 22 20s joined together permanently. I'll get to that later. And it's been on a hose reel, which is a bit bulky for what it is, and it's starting to get a bit old. I mean, it was second hand when I got it about 25 years ago. So this time we're going to do something about that. Now the cable itself comes in really handy because, well, that's what's powering my shed, workshop. This little cavity goes from there, under the door, right across the yard. Twist around there a bit just so it doesn't get pulled. It ends up there. So my entire garage is powered off that power point. But the reel itself, that's it. Well, the top loop handle's been missing for years. That never bothered me, I just carry it by that. But the bottom ones, that's broken away. That's gone there. And I had to, I'll show you later when I unwind this, but I had to modify the actual drum just so I could use it. But yeah, it's a bit big, bulky, way oversized for what it does. So using empty plastic reel I found, picked up, well, at Bunnings for nothing, because that used to contain rope and they just throw them out when they're empty. So I'll have that, thank you. And some plumbing supplies and some square tube. We're going to replace that old broken reel. Right, I mentioned plumbing supplies, but what do we have? We have two, I'm going to show the other one and you'll find out, 100mm end caps, pipe end caps. The reason for them is because of this opening here. We need something that's going to cover that. There we go. And one steel gal plated pipe cap. I think there's a 3/4, or it could even be 1/2 inch. A short length of 1/2 inch PVC pipe and a plastic end cap. Why one plastic, one metal? Well, plastic's lighter, but I need something to weld these two. Now this pipe is just longer than the reel itself, so that once I put the caps on, I'm going to put it on pretty tight, and then clip that onto one side like that. Line that up with that, and there's the distance we need to fill. So the first thing we need to do is measure that. Which is about 11mm, give or take. That's the total distance we need to fill. But we also need to fill this here, this lip. Can you see that from there? There we go. That is about 6.5mm. So we have 10 plus 13, that's a total of 23 millimeters we need to fill. Okay, well the first thing we need to do is find the center of these. Now, take a ruler, measure across the widest point, which is about there, and it's about 111 millimeters. Oops. Okay, so now we divide that by 2. That gives us 55.5 millimeters. So we're going to set the dividers at 55. Now here's the problem. If you look down in there, that tip doesn't reach the side. It's about 2 millimeters out, simply because of the shape of that arm. So we need to compensate for that. How are we going to do that? Well, put a piece of angle up against my ruler, put that up against there. Now I can set that to 55 millimeters. That gives me my radius compensated. So now we take that, put it inside there. Use the other one because it's sharper. Scribe a line across and just pick some points, just a few points, about 5 or 6, 4 even. You can see what's happening down there. All those lines I just made, there we go, make it a bit dirty. They all intersected. I hope that's showing up on the camera. There is my center. That's where I know how to drill. That's how I know where to drill. Okay, I've drilled out the center. Now I need to know how much to cut. Now, I've already done one. That's in place, and I've got the center in place. And I'm going to use that bit of angle there as a gauge. Now that's 3 mil, and there's about probably another 1.5 millimeters. So it needs to be because I need a bit of movement in it. It needs to be about 4 millimeters above this surface. Thing is, it's going to sit down below that surface. So first, what I need to do is, I've already done this on the other end, but I'll take that out for a second. Measure the depth of that, which is, still it is. It's going to show up a bit more. It's around 6.5 millimeters. Yeah, that's upside down. There you go. 6.5 mil. Plus 4.5. So we're going to make it about 10, let's say 11 millimeters, just to be safe. I can always sand the surface down. So we're going to take our scratch gauge, set it to 11 millimeters, which is less than what it is at the moment. Let me get me goggles. That's 11 mil. Okay, and we're going to scratch that all the way around. There we go. Now you see there's actually 2 lines there because I'd previously marked that at 12 mil. Whoops. Okay, now that that's marked, let's move over to the bandsaw, figure out how we're going to cut this. I have no gauge on this, no depth gauge or anything. Use a big chunk of square section, stick it on there, and a couple of clamps. I'm just going to lightly clamp that there for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep moving it around until it's right on that line. So that one's right. And that is not only giving me the depth here, it's giving me the depth at the front edge and the back edge. So that one's pretty much right there. Oh, no, that's moved. So, move that out a bit. Move that one out a bit too. I think that'll do it. Now we can cut. So that came down. Keep rolling it round. That'll give you an idea of how close it is to the mark. That's pretty much right on. So again, don't just push it through, roll it through. Whoa, see what happens? That's because I wasn't pushing it through, I was rolling it through. It can kick back, it's not hurting me. But now comes time to be careful. Near the end. Pointing off the rubber from the inside there. Now, that should be 10mm wide. Look at that. It's a little bit over 10mm. Once I clean it up, that'll be good. Okay, once we've trimmed them down, we now need to make it fit on there somehow. It's proud on that. We need to make it sit down on this surface here. So let's do a bit of maths. First we'll measure the overall diameter, which is 285 millimeters. And that, I think, what we say? Oh wow, that's 115. So 285 minus 115 leaves 170. Divide by 2. 85 millimeters from each edge is where that needs to sit. So we'll get our little square. Set that to 85 mil. About there. That's right there, but we need to get it right at 6 points. That's good. Something underneath here. Go away. Let's go around, make sure it's the same distance from all 6 points. That's pretty good there. Now I'm going to mark those 6 ribs. Okay, now we need to cut those out. So I'm just going to use a small flat file. You can use, well, whatever you have. Alright, let's just measure the depth of that, just to see how far down we have to go. That's nearly 8mm, so you don't have to go right down to the base. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Clearly that has a long way to go. See how deep that one is. A little bit more. It's all done. How's it all line up? Ah, you're kidding me. Awesome. These little knobs here are just the right distance. There we go. Just a little bit off, so it's going to widen all of them just a bit. There you are, it's on, but it's not great. That's all right though. It's not going to go anywhere. Now I need to punch a big hole in that. There we go. Just used a big stepper bit. So now, one on there. That one on there. And we can screw that onto the main frame. But first I need to make the main frame. So I've just been playing around with these a little bit just to get them to sit down comfortably and kind of, well, it's not tight but it's not loose either. It just sort of falls on there now. Once I did that, I put a mark on, location mark, reference mark, and just so I don't get confused one to the other when I take them off, that one's got two marks. These are the pieces I'm going to be using as the main frame to hold the reel, and this is the back cap off the center piece, and you notice there's a big step there, and it's not quite deep enough for that. So I want it to sort of sit like that, so we're going to have to notch out the ends of these just to make them fit. Okay, now we need to know how long that is, so we can find out how wide that needs to be. So that is 199 millimeters. I'm absolutely positive that is going to be more. So let's get this out of the way for a bit. Yeah, I thought that would happen. Okay. And that is at 198. So by those calculations, I should be able to just put this on there, tighten it up, and it'll work. Let's try it. That's nice, I like that. Just enough movement to let it free spin. It needs a handle. Don't you hate it when you get 95% of the way through a project and then something like this happens? So, to save me from having to remake that entire piece, I popped some glue on it. It's that's just PVA, but for some reason it's dried black, and I've just given that a bit of a sand back down so that it still spins freely inside that tube, and carefully put the screw back into it. Not that one. The washers are just slightly different. So I want that about there. You know what? I would like to countersink those, just so they're not hanging out as much. So I'm going to attempt, because that's kind of small, so I'm just going to open them up a bit. Well, it looks like I'm remaking that. I won't bore you with that, but I'll bring you back when I'm done. Out with the old, and with the new. That goes in, and it's nice and smooth. Let's try this again. Now, before you ask, I have already pre-drilled the ends, so the screw should go in fairly easily. Having said that, I thought that last time too, but let's give it a go. That worked. Let's try the other end. No fractures. Awesome. Now let's attach that to the reel. And of course the question is, where? I think there's a good spot, because, well, we don't want it here. There's a hole there and there's a hole there, so somewhere in between would be good. That's 138 millimeters. For 130 is 65, that's 69 millimeters. Doesn't have to be spot on, but close enough's good enough. But I'm not going to use that because I won't see it. Let's use that to mark a line there, and then about there. Seems like as good as place as any. I'll put one of them behind that. Screw that into there. Now I need a screwdriver. There we go. And we can slide that on. The other screw, put it in there. because the inner piece is longer and a smaller diameter, you can hold it while it winds. Now to put 40 metres of cable on this, and in the meantime do a bit of maintenance, let's call it maintenance, on the cable itself. But before we do that, there's one more thing I need to do. Now, the way I have the other reel set up, I can unwind it and the end is always exposed. Doesn't matter how long it is, the end that plugs into the wall is always exposed. So, to achieve that, drill a hole right there. Now this is what I meant by a little maintenance. That has just been wrapped with electrical tape about 25 years ago. So I'm going to remove that because at some point I need to split the cable because it needs to be fed through the new reel. So this is as good a place as any. It is disconnected. There's the end over there. So let's get into this. Well, it looks like I followed all my own advice all those years ago. They're all staggered, they were all individually wrapped, and it's all nice and flat, and I used probably about a roll of tape to cover that up. Not good enough. And those solder joints don't look great, so I'm going to split them, feed this end through the new reel, resolder them and heat shrink wrap them, including the entire piece. That's just half. time you unsolder wires, especially ones that have been soldered together for so long, chances are they're not going to want to go back together easily. So first thing to do is re-tin the ends, all the ends. That's where it's going to live. Still not 100% sold on this handle. Yes, it works, but it's a bit intrusive, sticking out like that. So I'm going to work on something with that. But let's plug it in and see if we can blow the house up. Plugged in up there. Doing this one hand, it's fun. Here we go. Well, nothing blew up yet. Okay. Let's go out to the garage and plug in the other end. You know what? Let's not plug that in. Let's plug this in. Righto. Plug that in. Alright. Well, it works. Nothing blew up. Okay. Unplug that. Plug that in. Get in there. Come on, work, hands. There we go. That worked. A dodgy light there. I have to look into that. Well, seemed to have worked. And as for the old reel, once upon a time it was a hose reel and I just adapted it to make it work, but you can see I've had to cover all these bars on the drum with a sheet of metal because they are all broken. There's one. That one's gone too. That one's not so bad. This is the main one. But I thought while I was at it, well, if I'm doing one, why not do all of them? So that is now junk. That can go in the bin. And before anyone asks, why didn't I just go buy one? I can't. I cannot find a reel that will hold a 40-metre cable. I don't know. If I could find even if I could find a 50, I'd go for that. But I couldn't, so can't buy it, make it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope someone got something out of that. If you did, if you learned something and you like what you saw, hit that like button down below. While you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You got any comments? Any questions? Hit me up down below. And I'll see you on the next one.